Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. We're going to talk about Doctor Who. We're going to talk about Russell T Davies taking over Doctor Who after Chris Chibnall gets kicked out of the damn TARDIS. And we're going to talk about the possibility of Russell T Davies rolling back the Timeless Children retcon, which completely ruined the show for me. Personally, I don't know about you, but it was incredibly divisive. And this needs to happen. This needs to happen to win people back to Doctor Who, I believe. We're going to talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Over 263, almost 264,000 subs. Make sure you're still subscribed. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. YouTube is up to shenanigans. They always are. Certain channels they don't like very much, especially if you take a dissenting opinion on the entertainment industry, because the entertainment industry spends a lot of money to advertise on YouTube, right? And I think that they call in some favors sometimes. So your favorite channels out there that talk about pop culture, you want to make sure you're subscribed to them. So let's talk about this. Chibnall is out the door, right? He's leaving Doctor Who, thank God, after a disastrous run with Jodie Whittaker. And look, there was potential there. It was completely squandered. And the biggest FU to the fans, it wasn't the fact even that they had made the Doctor a woman for the first time, outside of a parody, but it was the fact that they ran the show into the ground. It became very ham-fisted, very preachy, and unforgivably, they retconned the Doctor's origin. It was really freaking stupid. They lost a lot of fans. Doctor Who is a damaged brand at this point, and now it looks like they're going to attempt to fix it. The BBC has turned over the reins to Russell T Davies, who brought the show back in 2005, and immediately he's gotten to work trying to I guess get the band back together. I believe he's bringing Murray Gold back to do the music. And weirdly enough, he sold his production company to Sony. So basically, Sony is going to be in charge of Doctor Who and not the BBC directly. They're still going to, as I understand it, they're still going to take care of the merchandising and the distribution and all of that. But I do think that production values will probably be ramped up. Now, we don't know who the next Doctor is yet. There were rumors that it might be Hugh Grant, which would be kind of funny because he was in the parody years ago. The Curse of Fatal Death, you remember that. The Curse of Fatal Death. So it would be kind of funny to have him come back and actually be a proper Doctor, but that is not happening. It's not happening. He's already squashed that rumor. Don't know who the next Doctor is going to be, but we know that Chibnall is not coming back at all. And now there's a rumor, it's actually coming from Chibnall himself, that he fully expects Russell T Davies to walk back that retcon. And, I gotta wonder if it isn't the case. Now, some people are like, oh, he's going to double down on the Timeless Children. I don't know if he's going to. He's made some comments before when they were doing the at-home viewing of Doctor Who. He's made comments that, the Doctor, the numbering of the Doctors doesn't matter at all. The Doctor could be anything, and it just seems sort of tongue-in-cheek, like, what the hell are you guys doing? If he doesn't retcon it, I expect him to just step over it, for sure, but we'll see what happens. So this was actually a couple of days ago. We've been very busy, so I haven't really been keeping on top of Doctor Who news because, it's heartbreaking. It was my favorite show at one point in time, and now I don't give a shit. Kind of like Star Wars. Star Wars was my favorite movie series and my favorite franchise, one of my favorite franchises, and Disney has left me in such a state with Star Wars that I don't give a shit anymore. It's not hatred anymore, it's apathy. But if this is true, I might be willing to dip back in to try to see if there's anything left that can be saved from Doctor Who. According to DoctorWhoTV.UK, Chibnall won't write for Doctor Who again and fully expects Russell T Davies to ignore his controversial canon change. Showrunner Chris Chibnall has said he expects his controversial canon changes to Doctor Who, the Timeless Child retcon being the biggest, will be ignored by his successors, including Russell T Davies. And why do it? According to the Radio Times, here it is, the Radio Times, You're not carrying a vase across a room. You've got to get in there and say what you want to say about the show, the character, and the world. He continues, it's one of the few drama series without a written Bible, and every era contains a contradiction or left turn from what has come before. Any future showrunner will ignore it or run with it. Chibnall concludes, I fully expect Russell to ignore it. I fully expect Russell to ignore it. As for returning to the show to write another episode, Chibnall makes it very clear, absolutely never again. Clear red line final script. He's over it. He's done. He added, I never expected to come back after working with Stephen Moffat, really, and I turned it down a couple of times after that. I never thought I'd be offered the job and build into that, which is why I wanted to keep it to a very specific 3-series thing. Sure. Supervising teenagers' revisions is taking up my time now, and there's lots of other things I want to write. I will happily sit back and watch. For all that's been gorgeous all along, it's now like, I remember this. This is what real life is like. Yeah, it's a hard gig. I mean, Doctor Who is a hard gig. It would have been so much easier had you not pissed off, a huge portion of longtime Doctor Who fans. I mean, I know people that have watched this show for decades that are like, I am finally done with Doctor Who. It's so bad. Like they suffered through some of the worst Who in the 70s and 80s. And they're just like, yeah, I'm done. I'm done with it. So this is, speaking of Doctor Who.tv.co.uk, year before, 2020. Has it been that long? 2020. The verdict on the Timeless Children retcon. Now, for those of you who don't know what went down with the Timeless Children, it was actually Gary from Nerdrotic, I believe, who had an insider come to him and say, oh my God, you will not believe what they're planning to do with Doctor Who. They're basically going to retcon the Doctor. So William Hartnell's Doctor is no longer the first Doctor, but the Doctor is actually going to start out as female. And it's going to turn out that there were a whole bunch of female doctors and non-white doctors before we get to what we considered to be the first Doctor. And that's exactly what happened. They made sure that William Hartnell's first Doctor was no longer the first Doctor. He might have been the 1001st Doctor. And they undid that, which I believe is unforgivable. I do. I think it's a huge slap in the face. It doesn't make sense when you mesh it up with the rest of what we know of the Doctor, and it's ridiculous. It's of course they could find a wibbly wobbly timey wimey way to undo it, and I hope to God they do, and just be like, it was all a sham. But yeah, apparently the Doctor has infinite regenerations, and the Doctor's from another universe, and all this crazy shit. I'm like, whatever. It got worse. Anyway, look at this. 26% of people said it was truly awful. The Timeless Children score breakdown. As always, we ask you to rate the episode on a scale of 1 to 10. A few thousand of you voted. The average score is 5.87. According to the Doctor Who TV score guide, this indicates the episode was generally considered to be just shy of above average. However, this score leaves the Timeless Children as the 15th lowest rated episode of the whole revival. This is the second episode this year to have a model score of 1 out of 10. The first was Orphan 55. The two-parter has an average score of 6.59. The Chibnall era has now seen 7 of the 21 episodes so far enter the bottom 20. What can you say about it? This is obviously another poor result, though realistically, was anyone expecting anything different? A story that retcons the origins of the Doctor and Gallifrey was always going to be extremely controversial, leading to massively polarizing voting. The best thing you could say about all this is it's not quite the lowest rated episode of the Chibnall era, so small victories. Yeah, it's terrible. Now, The Guardian's actually weighing in on saving Doctor Who. It's so funny, because I remember just a couple of years ago, Doctor Who was great. Doctor Who was fine. There was no problem with the Doctor. Everything was wonderful. It's just a small number of haters on YouTube that hate the direction of the show. There's nothing to see here. It's everything's great. You don't understand the numbers. You don't understand what the numbers actually mean. Yeah, it looks like, these episodes are some of the lowest viewed episodes ever, but you don't understand math. Let us teach you Common Core math. And now, finally, after it's been announced that Chibnall and Whitaker are out the damn door. Now, finally, even publications like The Guardian are admitting that Doctor Who is damaged and it needs fixed, right? This is how it always is, isn't it? Always. It's the media is always doubling, tripling down on a story, and when the general public doesn't buy it, the general public becomes the enemy. They become the vocal minority. And then when it gets to a point where it's like you cannot deny the truth any longer, then they're like, well, we were saying that all along. It was, you know, we've been saying that Doctor Who was in trouble for a long time. Bullshit. Bullshit. You told everybody who didn't like the show, who didn't like the retcon, who didn't like Jodie Whittaker or whatever the deal was, that they were awful people, and you tripled down on it for years. Anyway, now coming from The Guardian, double down on fun and adventure. Oh my God. Imagine that. These are ways you can fix Doctor Who. Decide that less is more. The BBC's budget for Doctor Who is minuscule compared to the amount that Amazon, Disney Plus, and Netflix can throw at episodes for sci-fi. Rather than trying to compete week by week, the show could ditch the traditional series format and focus on making 2 or 3 movie-length specials each year. They did that before with David Tennant. They're doing it now with Jodie Whittaker. Set it mostly in the past. Ditch the TARDIS for a while. A Doctor of the Week every week. What if there was no one new Doctor? Oh, fuck that. With a quick narrative device to produce an unstable regeneration, you could hire a new high-profile Doctor every week. We don't need that. Aim it unashamedly at 12-year-olds. That's kind of how they started, wasn't it? It was a kid's show, and it's gotten, you know, I mean, geez. The Doctor in Chibnall's run was fighting space racists and bad white people and all this other crazy bullshit. Do anything you want, you're Russell T Davies. Oh, now they're gonna give him back pats. How quickly we forget about Chris Chibnall. So yeah, it's gonna be really interesting to see what happens. I think the only way they can save this show and save face is to either give it a hard reset and say, yeah, we're back to Doctor number 1, or yeah, all those other Doctors, yeah, that happened, but we don't really talk about it too much, kind of like they did in 2005. And then they sort of slowly mention, you know, the past. But they definitely have to get rid of the Timeless Children retcon. It damaged the show beyond belief. And I think now the BBC is starting to realize, like, oh, we done fucked up. You know, whether or not they do anything about it, you know, is another thing entirely. But it is in shambles right now. I'd like to say they can only go up. There's no way to go but up, but we know how the entertainment industry works. We know how the BBC thinks. Thankfully, they don't have as much control over it as they used to. But yeah, I don't know, guys. We'll see what happens. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this one up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, and we will talk later.